All right, so buckle up, because this week we're diving deep into the whirlwind that was March 17th to 23rd, 2025. And let me tell you, from what you've sent over, it looks like Elon Musk was keeping everybody on their toes, or what, like half a dozen different companies?
It does seem like every day there's a new headline, some good, some not so good.
Exactly. So our mission, should we choose to accept it, is to sift through this mountain of information and pull out the juiciest, the most insightful, the most surprising nuggets for you, the learner. We're talking Tesla, SpaceX, that whole X situation formerly known as Twitter, Neuralink, even a little postal service controversy sprinkled in for good measure. Sound good?
Let's jump in.
Okay, first up, Tesla. Now, full self-driving, FSD, it's always the hot topic, right? Every few weeks, it seems like there's some big announcement about how it's right around the corner.
Right, that exponential progress Musk is always talking about.
But a report that came out on the 23rd suggests things might not be moving quite as fast as some people hoped. They've been working on version 13 of FSD for 3 months, and the average distance the car can drive itself before a human has to take over, it only doubled.
And what were those numbers exactly?
So it went from about 200 miles to 495 miles. Not bad, but they were aiming for 5 or 6 times the improvement.
I see, so still a ways to go before we're all napping in the backseat on our commutes.
Well, the head of FSD actually put out this benchmark for what they consider true unsupervised driving. He said it needs to be 700,000 miles between collisions on average. To put that in perspective, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration says the average for human drivers is about the same.
Wow, 700,000 miles. That really highlights the gap, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And on top of that, there are rumors that Tesla might be shifting focus to this robo-taxi service they're piloting in Austin, but it would only operate in a very specific geofenced area. So some people are wondering if that means progress on the broader FSD is going to slow down even more.
Makes sense. Focus resources where they're most likely to see immediate results.
Speaking of focusing resources, we need to talk about these attacks on Tesla. This was actually pretty scary stuff. In mid-March, there was a wave of incidents targeting Tesla dealerships and cars across the US, even one in Berlin. Arson, Molotov cocktails, vandalism, you name it.
Oh, I hadn't heard about Berlin. What happened there?
It was a dealership, I think. Someone threw a Molotov cocktail at it. Luckily, nobody got hurt. But in Las Vegas, a showroom was seriously damaged by fire. The FBI is investigating that one. Then you've got Cybertrucks being set on fire in Seattle, a showroom in Portland that was targeted by bullets not once but twice. And then down in South Carolina, someone set fire to a bunch of charging stations.
It almost sounds like some kind of coordinated campaign.
Right. And it's not just random acts either. During a Mardi Gras parade, a bunch of Cybertrucks were damaged, and then there was this whole Tesla takedown protest in Pasadena. You have to wonder if all the negative attention Musk gets in the media, if that's contributing to this.
Yeah, that public persona definitely cuts both ways.
It absolutely does. And this whole situation seems to be impacting Tesla in other ways, too. They were actually barred from the Vancouver International Auto Show.
Oh, wow. Really? Why is that?
The organizers said it was because of safety of attendees. Clearly, they were concerned about the potential for protests or even more serious incidents.
Yeah, I can see how they might come to that decision.
It's not a good look for Tesla, that's for sure, especially with the stock price already down. It had been falling for 9 weeks straight before this.
9 weeks, yikes.
Yeah, so Musk called this big all-hands meeting with Tesla employees and told them to, quote, hang on to your stock. He basically said that Wall Street is undervaluing the company and that in the long term, with FSD and the Optimus robot, they're going to be worth a fortune. And get this, the day after that meeting, the stock jumped up.
So maybe some people listened.
Maybe they did. Now let's shift gears and talk about SpaceX, because they had a pretty amazing week, honestly.
Oh yeah, definitely some wins there.
They launched their 450th Falcon 9 rocket. That's a huge milestone. The mission was called NROL-57, and it was for the National Reconnaissance Office. So probably some spy satellites or something like that.
Right, most likely part of their Starshield program, which is, government and military focused, secure communications, that sort of thing.
Makes sense. But here's the really impressive part. They launched that rocket, and then just 9 days later, they launched the same first stage booster again. It's a new record for turnaround time. The previous one was 13 and a half days.
That rapid reusability, that's SpaceX's secret sauce, right?
Yeah.
Makes space travel much more affordable.
Exactly. And on top of that, the Crew 9 mission splashed down safely off the coast of Florida. That was on March 18th. They brought back 4 astronauts, 3 from NASA and 1 from the Russian Space Agency.
Always good to have them back home safe and sound.
Absolutely. And then that same day, they also launched another 23 Starlink satellites. That constellation is just getting bigger and bigger.
Global internet coverage, here we come.
Okay, now let's talk about X, because this one's a bit of a mess, honestly. On March 10th, they had a major outage. Like, tens of thousands of people couldn't access the site.
I remember that. What was the cause? Servers overloaded?
Well, Musk called it a massive cyber attack, and he even said they traced the IP addresses back to the Ukraine area. Shortly after that, a group calling themselves the Dark Storm Team claimed responsibility on Telegram, but then they deleted the message. So who knows what actually happened?
Yeah, always hard to tell what's really going on with cyber stuff.
Totally. And amidst all that chaos, there were these reports that the valuation of X has climbed back up to $44 billion, which is exactly what Musk paid for it originally. But that was after it lost a significant chunk of its value.
So back to square one.
Pretty much. And then, on top of that, they're still dealing with all these government censorship requests. Just in the past week, they had to suspend some accounts in Turkey, and they're reportedly pushing back against similar requests from India.
It's a tricky situation, isn't it? Trying to operate a global platform while complying with different countries' rules.
Yeah, and it's only going to get more complicated, especially with the AI stuff they're getting into. So on March 17th, xAI, Musk's AI company, acquired this text-to-video project called Hotshot.
Interesting. I hadn't heard of that one.
Yeah, it's this AI that can create videos from text prompts. So some people are speculating that they're going to integrate that technology into X. Imagine you could just type out a description of what you want to see, and boom, the AI creates a video for you.
They'll be wild. The potential for misinformation would be huge.
Right. I mean, it's exciting technology, but it definitely comes with some risks. Now, shifting to Neuralink, they're continuing to make some pretty incredible strides. On March 22nd, they announced that they successfully implanted a brain device in a third human patient. So now there are 3 people walking around with these things in their heads, and apparently they're all doing well.
Wow, that's amazing. It feels like just yesterday they were doing trials with monkeys.
Right. It's moving fast. They're aiming to implant 20 to 30 more devices this year. And we're already starting to hear some pretty incredible stories about what the first 2 patients are able to do. One of them can apparently play video games just by thinking about it. And the other one can use computer-aided design software, CAD, just with his mind.
That's unbelievable. It sounds like science fiction.
I know, right? And they're constantly upgrading the devices, too. More electrodes, higher bandwidth, longer battery life. It's pretty crazy to think where this is all headed.
What about the ethical implications? Are they addressing those concerns?
Well, they're working with this ALS patient named Brad to develop a new communication system. Basically, they're combining Neuralink with AI language models to help him communicate more naturally and quickly than he can with his current eye tracking system. And they've also said that they're going to be reaching out to potential applicants for their blind sight project very soon. So that one's focused on restoring vision.
So they are thinking about the therapeutic applications, which is good to see.
Definitely. Okay, before we wrap up, just a couple of quick things. First, Musk caused a bit of a stir by promoting this app on X called CBP Home. It's basically an app that helps people self-deport. So, as you can imagine, a lot of people were not happy about that.
Oh, I see how that would be controversial.
Yeah, it was a pretty tone-deaf move. And then lastly, there was this protest in Cleveland by a bunch of postal workers. They were demonstrating against the privatization of the U.S. Postal Service, and they had signs with Elon Musk's name on them, right alongside Donald Trump's.
What does Musk have to do with the post office?
Well, a while back, he suggested that maybe the post office should be privatized, so they're not too happy with him about that.
That makes sense.
So, The Learner, that was your whirlwind tour of a week in the world of Elon Musk. I don't know about you, but I'm exhausted just thinking about it all. You've got these groundbreaking advancements in space travel, in brain-computer interfaces, but also these real-world challenges and controversies. The apparent slowdown in FSD progress, those attacks on Tesla, the whole situation with X, it really raises some big questions about where all of this is headed. What do you think? What stood out to you the most from all of this? I mean, this is just a taste, really. We encourage you to dig deeper, to think about the implications of these technologies, because they're going to impact all of us in one way or another. And who knows what crazy headlines next week will bring. Thanks for joining us on the Snoop Dive. We'll see you next time.